Hello everyone, today we're going to be starting something different on this channel. We're going to be starting a primitive look at church history, so kind of like a beginner's guide to church history. I would have preferred to have taken things in more of a chronological order, but I thought what better way to start than to begin with my personal favorite council, my favorite church council of all the controversies that have happened in the Christian church up till date. As you'll notice in my channel name, Quack Dr. Ugly, 529, the 529 there comes from this particular date of this council, the Second Council of Orange. So, as we read in the draft of the council that I have over here, the Second Council of Orange was an outgrowth of the controversy between Augustine and Pelagius. This controversy had to do with the degree to which a human being is responsible for his or her own salvation, and the role of the grace of God in bringing about salvation. The Pelagians, that's the students of Pelagius, the Pelagians held that human beings are born in a state of innocence, that is, there is no such thing as a sinful nature or original sin. As a result of this view, they held that a state of sinless perfection is achievable in this life. In the Council of Orange, the Council of Orange dealt with the semi-Pelagian doctrine. So take a close look at the different terms we're going to be using in this stuff. So the Second Council of Orange dealt with the semi-Pelagian doctrine that the human race, though fallen, possessed a sinful nature, is still good enough to be able to lay hold of the grace of God through an act of unredeemed human. As you read the canons of the Council of Orange, you'll be able to see where John Calvin derived his views of total depravity of the human race. So that's a good summary of the introduction of this council, and that's the most we're going to be looking at in this particular video. So the Second Council of Orange was born, as it says, an outgrowth of the controversy between Augustine and Pelagius. In the century before that time, Augustine and Pelagius and the bishops at the Council of Carthage had to deal with the idea of original sin. So Pelagius had held that human beings are born innocent, and anyone that is born is essentially a new Adam, and there is no need for, hypothetically, at least in theory, there is no need for redemption. It's possible that a person could just live perfectly and he would not need this necessity of the grace of God through Jesus Christ at all. So you can see how that clearly is something that would make the cross of Christ without effect. And that would literally justify Paul's assertion in Galatians chapter 2 that if righteousness is by the law, Christ died needlessly. And that is a verse that is going to be quoted a couple more times in this particular council. So after the church had done well to condemn Pelagius, what happened was that during the time, Augustine still had controversies and discussions with another bishop named John Cassian. So John Cassian, though Augustine was a bit more lenient with him, did not go the full length of Pelagianism, but what he believed and what his students after him were supporting at Orange in the next century was what was known as semi-Pelagian. So the idea that there is a necessity of salvation through Christ because we are all born into sin, but then there is the aspect of the human nature, the human will, that is still good enough or spiritually sensitive enough to on its own seek the salvation that is through Christ and lay hold of it through unredeemed human volition. So unlike the way he was with Pelagius, Augustine was a bit more lenient in his conversation with him. But the issue now sprung into full fruition by the time both of them were long gone, and the students of Augustine and John Cassian, and as well as the students of this man called Fotis of Reyes, so they all came together to form what was called the Lerins tradition, or the opposition. The Lerins tradition made up of the students of John Cassian and Fotis of Reyes. So this controversy came to peak value once they gathered at Orange to deal with this issue. So presiding over the council, St. Caesarius of Arles, and he was a major figure in the early Gallic church, and he had about 14 bishops that attended and signed the acts of these councils. Notable figures like Stantinus, Bishop of Ozes, Cyprian, the Bishop of Toulon, and Eucharius, the Bishop of Avignon. So these people came together to deal with this issue of the nature of man's will after the fall and how it relates to whether a person is completely within his own ranks able to lay hold of the grace of God which is available in Jesus Christ. So that's as much as we're going to look at for today. So I'll probably be doing this in terms of like series and stuff like that. So the next week we will get into a look at some of the canons or rules that were passed during the ongoing nature of this council. But so far, this is as much as we're going to look at how the council was introduced and the various controversies or issues that led to it and all those that were involved. So that will be all for today. Thank you all very much.